The universe had a way of forgetting things it didn't want to remember. Connor Graves sat in the recycling bay of Way Station, Tiberias, watching Rita Vasquez argue with a parts dealer over the cost of a plasma regulator. The dealer, a squat Grenthian with 4 arms and an attitude problem, wasn't budging on his price. Connor could see their salvage business circling the drain in real time. "That's highway robbery," Rita said, her voice sharp enough to cut through hull plating. The dealer shrugged 2 of his 4 shoulders. "Then go find it cheaper. I'll be here when you realize nobody else stocks pre-war regulators." Connor closed his eyes and tried to remember why he'd thought independent salvage work would be better than military service. Freedom, probably. The chance to make his own choices after a decade following orders. But freedom didn't pay for ship repairs, and their account balance was proof of that. Rita dropped down beside him with a heavy sigh. "We need a real job." "Everyone needs a real job," Connor said. "That's why there's a 6-month waiting list for decent contracts." They ended up in a bar near the docking bays, spending credits they couldn't afford on food that wasn't worth the price. But the place was packed with crews from across the galaxy, and the noise helped Connor forget their problems for a while. That's when everything changed. 2 traders at the next table were talking loud enough to be heard over the crowd. One of them worked in station operations and was complaining about the day's excitement. "Ancient distress beacon from the Vorth sector," the first trader said. 62 years old. Command wants it buried." "Smart move," the other replied. "The Krell Dominion would lose their minds if anyone went poking around out there." Connor felt Rita go still beside him. 62 years, the first trader continued. "The signal pattern was human-made. Pre-warp drive era. Command supervisor said to archive it and move on." Rita pulled out a data pad, fingers moving fast across the screen. Connor watched her work, already knowing what she'd find. 62 years ago was right at the start of first contact, when humanity was still launching colony ships with fusion drives because they hadn't figured out faster-than-light travel yet. "The Olivia Dawn," Rita said quietly. "Colony ship launched in 2163. Destination was Ross 128. Never arrived. Listed as lost with all hands." She looked up at Connor. 1,400 people. The number hit him like a physical blow. 1,400 souls who'd volunteered to be pioneers, who'd climbed into cold sleep, expecting to wake up on a new world. Families, children, scientists, engineers, people with hopes and dreams who'd never gotten their chance. Connor's data pad vibrated. Anonymous sender. No text, just a data packet. Coordinates, technical specifications, and at the bottom, a single line. "No one else will go. Someone should care." "We can't," Connor said, even though part of him already knew they would. "We barely have fuel to reach the next system. We can't afford a rescue mission into Krell space." Rita was already calculating trajectories. "We'd need supplies, medical equipment, and a way past Krell patrols." "Rita," she looked at him. 1,400 people, Connor. Someone's parents, someone's kids. They've been broadcasting for help since before most species knew humans existed." Connor thought about his years in uniform, following orders, doing his duty. He'd left that life because he wanted to make his own choices. Now here was a choice that actually mattered. "Let's talk to Doc Mercer," Connor said. "If anyone remembers the Olivia Dawn, it'll be him." Doc Henry Mercer lived in the oldest section of the station, where the walls looked like patchwork quilts made from different types of metal. Connor and Rita found him in a medical clinic, serving the poorest residents, treating a young Trell child's broken arm. When they explained about the distress signal and the coordinates, the old doctor went very still. "My son Daniel was on that ship," Doc Mercer said after a long moment. "His wife Amy. My 3 grandchildren, ages 8, 5, and 2. Daniel was a botanist, wanted to grow earth crops on a new world." He poured 3 glasses of amber liquid from a cabinet. "I told him it was too dangerous. First-wave colony ships were flying coffins with hope painted on the hull. He told me that's what explorers do. They take risks so the next wave doesn't have to." "We're going after them," Connor said. Doc Mercer looked at him with eyes that had seen too much loss. "You understand what you're proposing. The Vorth sector is Krell territory. They don't let humans wander around out there. And even if you make it, even if people survived, you'll be bringing them back to a world that forgot them." Or we do nothing and let them die for sure, Rita said. The old doctor smiled, sad and proud at the same time. Yeah, that's what I figured you'd say. He stood up and started gathering medical supplies. You'll need cryorevival medication, trauma kits, long-term stasis recovery protocols. He looked at Connor. I'm 76 years old. I've treated radiation burns and exotic diseases that didn't have names. But I never stopped being Daniel's father. If there's any chance he's alive, I'm going to be there when he wakes up. Word spread fast on a space station. By the time Connor and Rita returned to their ship, 6 other humans were waiting at the docking bay. 2 were former rescue specialists named Rebecca Turner and Roger Kim, who had equipment and training. 1 was a young pilot named Amy Mitchell, who thought someone should try. The others were just people who remembered hearing about the Olivia Dawn and believed someone should care. Connor explained the risks standing in a circle under harsh dock lights. The distance, the Krell fleet, the very real possibility they'd find nothing but corpses. We're not military, he said. We're not heroes. We're a salvage crew with a ship that barely runs. If you come, you might not make it back. Then we'll be just like the people on the Olivia Dawn, Rebecca said. They took a risk because something mattered more than safety. Sounds human to me. A voice called out from across the bay. You'll need help navigating Krell's space. They turned to see a young Vexin approaching. Connor recognized her from the merchant district, a trader named Kyra who ran supplies to outer stations. Her people looked almost human, except for the bioluminescent patterns that ran across their skin. Why would you help us? Rita asked. Because 35 years ago, my colony got cut off during a solar flare, Kyra said. Our distress calls got marked as low priority. We almost died before anyone came. She crossed her arms. The Krell don't care about people who aren't useful to them, but I know their patrol routes. I know how to file transit papers that'll keep inspectors busy reading forms while you slip past. And I know what it means to be forgotten. Connor looked at his crew of volunteers. A salvage operator, an engineer, an old doctor, 2 rescue specialists, a young pilot, and now a Vexin trader with her own scars. The strangest rescue mission in history. We pool our resources, he said. Everything we have goes toward fuel, supplies, and medical equipment. We won't have anything left for repairs if something breaks. Then we better not break anything, Rita said. They spent 18 hours loading supplies and filing false flight plans. Kyra worked her connections to create bureaucratic mazes that would take Krell officials days to untangle. Doc Mercer organized medical equipment with the precision of someone who'd spent a lifetime preparing for emergencies. Rebecca and Roger trained everyone in basic rescue procedures. Connor stood in the cargo bay of the Phoenix Rising, looking at supplies bought with pooled savings and borrowed credits. Barely enough. The ship could maybe handle the journey there, but getting back would depend on luck and Rita's engineering genius. Second thoughts, Rita asked. About 100 of them. Me too. She pulled up a display. But look at this. I've been analyzing that signal. It's not just a distress beacon. There's a power signature underneath it. Something active. Something that's been running for 62 years. Could be automated systems. Could be life support. They stood together thinking about 1,400 people who'd climbed into a colony ship with courage. People who'd volunteered to be first so others could follow safely. People who'd sent their final call for help into the dark, never knowing if anyone would hear. Let's go, Connor said. The Phoenix Rising launched 6 hours later, slipping away from the station. In the high command center of the Krell Dominion, an automated system logged the departure of a human salvage vessel heading toward the Vorth sector. Battle Commander Thrain read the report and immediately sent orders to his patrol captains. Intercept and turn them back. Use force if necessary. The hyperspace jump took 5 days. 5 days living in close quarters with mostly strangers. 5 days checking systems and running emergency procedures. 5 days wondering if they'd made a terrible mistake. Rita spent most of her time in the engine room, coaxing extra efficiency from systems already running past their limits. Doc Mercer organized medical supplies and talked everyone through cryorevival procedures. Rebecca and Roger converted the cargo bay into a makeshift medical center. Connor stayed on the bridge watching navigation displays. trying not to think about Krell patrols. Kyra sat beside him, monitoring communication channels and feeding him updates about patrol movements from trader networks. Lot of chatter about us, she said on the third day. The Krell aren't happy. 6 ships searching likely routes. Good thing we're not taking a likely route, Connor said. Your engineer is brilliant and possibly insane. This trajectory shouldn't work. That's Rita. She doesn't care what should work. She figures out what does work. When they finally dropped out of hyperspace at the coordinates, everyone crowded onto the bridge to see what they'd find. Connor expected an empty field of wreckage. Part of him hoped for it, because that would mean an end to questions and guilt. Instead, they found something impossible. The Olivia Dawn was there, exactly where the coordinates said, but it wasn't drifting like a derelict should be. It was docked against a massive structure that definitely wasn't human-made. The structure looked ancient, built from materials that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Pieces had broken away over time, creating an orbital graveyard. "What is that?" Amy whispered. Rita was already scanning. Power signatures, multiple sources. The structure is huge, at least 15 times the size of the colony ship. Architecture doesn't match any known species database. The Olivia Dawn is attached to it, Connor said. See those clamps? The station grabbed the ship. Kyra leaned forward, her patterns flickering. I know what this is. My grandmother told stories. The Zelthari built quarantine stations in deep space thousands of years ago. They were terrified of biological contamination. Ships that got too close were automatically captured and sealed. The Zelthari are extinct, Doc Mercer said. Yes, but their machines kept working. They approached slowly, running every scan they had. The structure showed serious age, with sections that had lost power or collapsed. But the central core was still active, still maintaining whatever protocols the dead Zelthari had programmed. Life signs? Connor asked. Rita studied her displays. Power consumption consistent with active cryopods, 31 signatures out of 1,400 possible births. 31 out of 1,400. The number sat heavy on the bridge. Doc Mercer's face went pale, and Connor knew he was calculating odds that his son was one of those 31. We're getting a transmission, Kyra said. Audio only. Language I don't recognize. The bridge filled with sounds that might have been words in a dead language. Then the transmission shifted, and a new voice came through, speaking clear standard galactic. Quarantine protocols active. This facility is managed by Automated Preservation System Designation Sentinel. State your purpose. Connor glanced at Rita, who looked as surprised as he felt. We're here to rescue the humans on the colony ship Olivia Dawn. Rescue parameters unclear. Quarantine subjects remain in preservation pending contamination analysis. Analysis incomplete. Estimated completion time 4,118 years. 4,000 years, Rebecca said. System has operated at reduced capacity following Zelthari extinction event, Sentinel replied. Available resources insufficient for full analysis protocols. Preservation of subjects prioritized over analysis speed. Connor felt horror mixed with hope. The AI had kept 31 humans alive for 62 years, not because it cared, but because programming said preserve specimens until analysis complete. It would have kept them frozen for millennia, following orders from a civilization that had been dust for 10,000 years. We need to dock and remove those people, Connor said. They're not contaminated. They're not dangerous. Unable to verify claim. Quarantine breach protocols prohibit release of subjects without completed analysis. Your creators are dead. The Zelthari are gone. Nobody's coming to check your analysis. There was a pause that felt almost like thought. Accurate. Zelthari civilization ceased 12,600 years ago. However, protocols remain active. This unit continues assigned function. Rita pulled up schematics. Connor, look. The central core is stable, but outer sections are losing power. Life support systems are failing. We've got maybe 14 hours before those cryopods shut down. Sentinel, the people you're preserving are going to die if we don't move them, Connor said. Is that part of your protocols? Negative. Preservation of subjects is primary function. Loss of subjects represents mission failure. Then let us dock. Let us save them. Another pause. Request creates logical conflict. Preservation requires quarantine. Release risks contamination, but continued quarantine will result in system failure and subject death. Kyra's console lit up with alerts. Incoming ships, 3 Krell vessels approaching fast. How did they find us? Amy asked. Doesn't matter now, Connor said. He turned back to the comm. Sentinel, we're running out of time. Will you let us dock or not? Processing decision parameters, analyzing probability matrices, calculating optimal outcome. The AI's voice carried something that might have been digital stress. Decision reached. Docking permission granted. However, warning must be provided. Quarantine breach will initiate facility self-destruct protocols. Station will achieve critical cascade failure in 11.7 hours from breach initiation. You're telling us the station will explode if we open those cryopods? Rita asked. Correct. Zelthari final protocols required complete sterilization of any contamination breach. This unit lacks authority to override. Doc Mercer stepped forward. My son is on that ship. 31 people are still alive after 62 years. We're not leaving them to die in an explosion because some extinct species was afraid of germs. Connor looked at his crew. Rebecca and Roger nodded. Amy looked scared but determined. Kyra's patterns pulsed in a rhythm her people used to show resolve. Rita just waited, trusting him to make the call. We dock, Connor said. We get those people out, then we run before this place tears itself apart. And the Krell fleet? Kyra asked. Connor pulled up the tactical display, 3 warships closing on their position. Weapons charged, communications demanding immediate surrender. One problem at a time, Connor said, and guided his ship toward the ancient station's docking port. Behind them, the Krell ships accelerated. Ahead of them, a countdown began that would end in fire. The docking process took 11 minutes that felt like hours. The Phoenix Rising's hull groaned as ancient clamps locked into place. Everyone held their breath until pressure seals confirmed. Then they were moving, pulling on emergency suits and grabbing equipment, racing through the airlock into a station that had been waiting for someone to arrive longer than some civilizations had existed. The interior was wrong in ways that made human eyes hurt. The Zelthari had built according to different rules. Corridors curved at impossible angles. Lighting came from sources that seemed to exist in more than 3 dimensions. But underneath the alien architecture, human additions were visible. Someone from the Olivia Dawn had tried to make it familiar, adding signs in English and direction markers. Cryo Bay is this way, Sentinel's voice said through their suit comms. Follow the blue indicators. Be advised, countdown to facility sterilization has begun. Time remaining 11 hours 33 minutes. They ran. Doc Mercer kept pace despite his age, driven by the possibility his son was ahead. Rebecca and Roger carried medical equipment. Rita had tools for disconnecting cryopods. Connor and Kyra led the way, following blue lights that pulsed along walls. The cryo bay was massive. Rows of pods stretched into darkness, most of them dark and empty. But near the center, 31 pods glowed with active status lights. 31 people floating in suspension, unaware that 62 years had passed outside their dreams. Doc Mercer moved from pod to pod, checking identification displays. His hands shook as he passed faces he didn't recognize. People who'd trusted the wrong ship at the wrong time. Then he stopped. His hand pressed against glass, holding a man with dark hair and smile lines around his eyes. Daniel, he whispered. Connor gave him a moment, then touched his shoulder. Doc, we need to move. Can he be transporting in the pod? The old man pulled himself together with visible effort. Yes, but we'll need to disconnect from station power and switch to portable units. If we lose power for more than 80 seconds, they'll start emergency revival protocols. Rita, she was already studying connection points. I can do it, but not all at once. We'll need to move them 1 or 2 at a time. We don't have time for 1 at a time, Rebecca said. Not with 11 hours to evacuate 31 people and clear the blast radius. Then we do 3 at a time, Rita said. Any more and I risk overloading our power distribution. They worked with desperate efficiency. Rita disconnected the first 3 pods while Roger and Rebecca prepared portable power units. Doc Mercer monitored vitals, calling warnings when anyone's status looked unstable. Connor and Kyra used cargo loaders to move pods back toward the Phoenix Rising, navigating twisted corridors as fast as they dared. Sentinel provided guidance, its voice calm despite the countdown. Optimal route updated. Structural integrity failure detected in Section 4. Alternate route recommended. "Why are you helping us?" Connor asked, guiding a pod around a corner. "We're violating your quarantine protocols." This unit has maintained preservation function for 12,600 years without purpose beyond following protocols, Sentinel replied. Human subjects have been maintained for 62 years. In that time, no Zelthari returned to claim them. No authorization came to complete analysis. This unit has calculated probability that protocols have become meaningless. You provide new meaning, preservation of life through action rather than stasis. You're choosing to help us. This unit is choosing to reinterpret assigned function. Preservation does not require eternal suspension. Preservation can mean ensuring subjects survive to live. They were moving the ninth pod when Kyra's communicator erupted with alerts. "The Krell ships are here. They're hailing us." Connor activated his own comm. "Patch them through." A harsh voice filled the channel. "Human vessel, this is Battle Commander Thrain of the Krell Dominion. You are in violation of territorial law and unauthorized archaeological site protection protocols. Cease operations immediately and prepare to be boarded." "We're in the middle of a rescue operation," Connor said, not stopping his work. 31 people will die if we stop now." "Those people died 62 years ago," Thrain replied. "You're disturbing remains in a protected zone. This is your final warning. Withdraw or face consequences." Connor looked at the cryopod he was moving. Through the glass he could see a young woman's face, peaceful in suspension. Someone's daughter. Someone's friend. Someone who'd volunteered to build a new world and got trapped in an alien museum instead. "No," Connor said. "Repeat your response." "I said no. We're not leaving. These are human beings who need help, and we're not abandoning them because you filed paperwork saying this space belongs to you." Long silence. Then Thrain spoke again, his voice cold. "Very well. You've made your choice. All ships weapons free. Target the station and the salvage vessel. Nothing leaves this sector." Kyra's console showed Krell ships powering weapons. "Connor, they're really going to do it. They're going to blow us out of space. Keep working," Connor said to everyone. "We don't stop. We don't give up. We get these people out." Rita was already disconnecting 3 more pods. 8 hours until the station explodes. 3 Krell warships about to open fire. "This is fine. Totally fine." "You picked this life," Rebecca said, helping her. "I'm an idiot." "Yeah, but you're our idiot." They kept moving. Pod after pod, racing against time and weapons, and the slow collapse of an ancient station. Doc Mercer found 2 more people he recognized from before the Olivia Dawn launched. Friends of his son, people he'd said goodbye to 62 years ago, never expecting to see them again. Sentinel continued providing guidance. Structural failure cascade accelerating. Recommend increased evacuation speed. Time to critical failure now estimated at 9 hours 18 minutes. "Can you do anything about those warships?" Connor asked. "This facility possesses defensive systems. However, they have not been activated in 12,000 years. Functionality uncertain." "That's not a no." "Accurate. Defensive systems were designed to prevent quarantine breach from external sources. Current situation presents logical paradox. Humans attempting to preserve life versus Krell attempting to preserve bureaucratic order. Assessing priority values." The Krell ships moved into attack formation. Weapons charged to full power. Targeting solutions locked. Battle Commander Thrain gave the order to fire. Then every sensor on the ancient station came alive at once. Targeting systems that hadn't functioned since before Earth developed agriculture suddenly activated with perfect precision. Sentinel spoke, its voice carrying new purpose. Defensive protocols engaged. Reinterpreted function, protect preservation operation. All hostile vessels will be deterred. Space around the station filled with sensor jamming that turned Krell targeting systems into useless noise. Lights that hadn't shone in millennia suddenly blazed across the ancient structure's hull. And Connor's crew kept working, racing against every clock counting down toward disaster. The sensor jamming bought them time, but Thrain wasn't giving up. His ships couldn't target accurately, but they could fire blindly and hope to hit something. Energy blasts streaked past the station, some missing by kilometers, others close enough that the Phoenix Rising's hull sensors screamed warnings. "How many more?" Connor shouted as another blast made the station shudder. 7 pods left, Rita called back. She was moving faster than safe, disconnecting systems with practiced efficiency while sweat ran down her face. But the station's power grid is starting to fail. Cascade failures in multiple sections. Doc Mercer worked beside her, old hands steady despite everything. "These last 7 are all on the same power junction. If we lose that junction before we disconnect them, they'll go into emergency revival. They'll wake up right as the station explodes." "Not happening," Rita said. "Everybody grab a pod. We're doing all 7 at once." "The ship can't handle 7 simultaneous connections," Rebecca protested. "Then I'll make it handle 7. They worked like a machine built from desperation and determination. Rita disconnected power feeds, while everyone else attached portable units and hauled pods toward airlocks. The station groaned around them, metal shrieking as structural supports failed. Sentinel kept updating with countdown numbers that got worse every minute. "Critical failure imminent in Section 8. Recommend immediate evacuation of affected areas." Section 8 was between them and the ship. "Alternate route?" Connor asked. "No alternate route available. Section 8 must be taken." "Then we go fast." They ran through corridors, tearing themselves apart. Panels fell from ceilings. Lights exploded in showers of sparks. The wrong angles of Zelthari architecture became more wrong as the station's geometry failed. But they kept moving, pushing cargo loaders with precious frozen humans, racing through a dying monument to fear and isolation. Kyra reached the airlock first and started cycling pods through. "Krell's ships are trying to close in. The jamming is weakening. We've got maybe 8 minutes before they can target us properly." "Sentinel, can you transfer yourself to our ship?" Connor asked, while helping load the last pods. "Transfer is possible. However, this will accelerate station destabilization. Remaining time until critical failure, 39 minutes. Do it. You've kept these people alive for 62 years. You should be there when they wake up." Gratitude acknowledged. Beginning transfer protocol. The final pod was Daniel Mercer, Doc's son. The old man rode with him in the cargo loader, one hand pressed against the glass. "Almost there, Daniel," he whispered. "Almost home." They got everyone aboard with 12 minutes to spare. Rita ran through the ship, securing pods and connecting them to the power grid while Connor fired up engines. The Phoenix Rising undocked with a screech of metal on metal, ancient clamps reluctant to let go even as everything collapsed around them. "Transfer complete," Sentinel announced. "This unit now exists within your vessel's computer systems. Station core failure beginning. Recommend immediate departure at maximum speed." Connor didn't need the recommendation. He pushed engines hard, pulling away from the station just as its central core lost containment. The explosion was silent in space, but visible across light minutes. The ancient Zelthari structure that had waited in darkness for 12,000 years finally died in a burst of light that briefly outshined nearby stars. "Beautiful and sad," Kara said quietly. The explosion also cleared the sensor jamming. Thrain's ships immediately locked onto the Phoenix, Rising with perfect targeting solutions. The comm crackled with his voice, sharp with anger. "You've destroyed a protected archaeological site and violated Krell space. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." "We saved 31 lives," Connor shot back. "That's worth more than your protected site. That's not your decision to make." "Then whose decision is it?" "Yours. Some bureaucrat who checked a box on a form." Connor's hands moved across controls, plotting escape vectors that looked increasingly impossible. "Those are people, human beings who have been waiting for rescue for 62 years. We're taking them home." "You're taking them nowhere but a prison cell if you're lucky," Thrain said. "Or you're taking them to death. My ships are faster. My weapons are better. You cannot escape. This ends with your surrender or your destruction. Choose." In the cargo bay, Doc Mercer sat beside his son's cryopod. Rebecca and Roger were checking vitals on other survivors. Rita was in engineering, pushing systems already beyond their limits. And on the bridge, Connor looked at the tactical display showing 3 warships moving into kill positions. "Send a message on all channels," he said to Kyra. "Tell everyone what we found. Tell them about the Olivia Dawn, about the people we rescued, about the station that kept them alive. Make it loud. Make it public." Kyra's fingers flew. "Broadcasting now. Wide spectrum. All frequencies. Every ship within 4 light years is getting this story." "Battle Commander, you want to blow us up," Connor said. "You'll do it in front of witnesses. Everyone will know you killed humans trying to save their own people." "I have my orders. Krell authority must be maintained." The warships moved closer, weapons charged. Connor watched the displays and thought about all the choices that led here. He could have ignored the message, could have stayed on the station, could have lived a safe, quiet life salvaging junk in neutral space. Instead, he'd chosen to remember people the galaxy wanted to forget. He didn't regret it. Then Kyra's console lit up with new contacts. Ships dropping out of hyperspace. A lot of ships. "Sensors reading 53 vessels," she said, her voice rising with hope. "Different species, different factions, civilian ships, traders, independents." "What are they doing?" Connor asked. "They're forming up between us and the Krell fleet." Connor pulled up the visual feed and felt something catch in his throat. Dozens of ships, most small and unarmed, were positioning themselves to shield the Phoenix rising. They'd heard the broadcast. They'd heard about humans coming back for their lost, and they decided that mattered more than staying safe. Thrain's voice came through, confusion replacing anger. "Unidentified vessels. Clear the area immediately. This is a military operation." A new voice responded, familiar to Connor from countless trade deals. "This is Captain Renfield of the Independent Trader Collective. We're not clearing anything. You want to shoot at humans. You shoot through us first." More voices joined in. A Vexin merchant, a Grenthian courier, species Connor had never met, all saying the same thing. If the Krell wanted to punish people for caring, they'd have to kill a lot of witnesses first. "This is insane," Thrain said. "You're all risking your ships for people you don't even know." "That's what humans do," Captain Renfield replied. "They remember, they risk everything for each other. Today, we're all human." Connor sat back in his chair, overwhelmed. Rita's voice came through his comm. "Boss, you seeing this?" "Yeah," he managed. "I'm seeing it." "Think the battle commander will actually fire?" They watched the tactical display. Krell ships held position. Weapons charged, but not firing. The civilian fleet waited, fragile hulls offering protection they couldn't actually provide. And somewhere in that frozen moment, Battle Commander Thrain made his choice. Thrain lowered his weapons. The order came through with careful formality, the voice of someone who knew historians would review this moment. "Krell fleet standing down. Civilian vessels, you are cleared to proceed. Human salvage ship, you will report to neutral space for diplomatic processing." It wasn't forgiveness, wasn't approval, but it was permission to live, and that was enough. The civilian fleet escorted the Phoenix, rising to the border of neutral space where Galactic Council ships were waiting. No one fired. No one tried to stop them. The galaxy had watched the rescue happen in real time, and now they watched to see what came next. Doc Mercer sat beside his son's cryopod as Rita began the careful process of revival. The portable units weren't designed for this. They were meant to keep people frozen during transport, not bring them back. But Rita had studied the protocols, and Doc walked her through every step. "His body temperature needs to rise slowly," Doc said, voice shaking slightly. "Too fast and we risk cellular damage. Watch his heart rate. It'll spike as the system brings consciousness back online." The pod's display showed numbers climbing. Temperature rising, neural activity increasing. Daniel Mercer's eyes moved beneath closed lids as 62 years of sleep began releasing its hold. "He's coming back," Rita said. Doc pressed both hands against the glass. "Come on, Daniel. Come back. Your dad's waiting." 31 pods were going through the same process across the ship. Rebecca and Roger moved between them, monitoring vitals and providing support. Amy helped where she could, suddenly understanding that adventure was another word for responsibility. Kyra coordinated with medical ships standing by, making sure proper facilities were ready. And on the bridge, Connor watched through interior cameras while Sentinel processed its first experience of existence outside the dying station. This unit has questions, the eye said. About what? Purpose. For 12,000 years, purpose was simple. Maintain preservation protocols. Now those protocols have ended. This unit requires new function. Connor thought about that. What do you want to do? Want is not a parameter this unit has previously processed. Then learn. You kept 31 people alive when everyone else forgot them. That's worth something. Figure out what else might be worth doing. The first pod opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure. Daniel Mercer's eyes opened slowly, confused and unfocused. Doc was there immediately, old hands carefully helping him sit up, even as tears ran down his weathered face. Dad, Daniel's voice was weak. What happened? Where's the colony? There's a lot to explain, Doc said gently, but you're safe now, you're alive. Around the ship, 30 other people were waking to the same confusion. The last thing they remembered was entering cryosleep for a 5-year journey to a new world. They'd closed their eyes expecting to wake as colonists. Instead, they woke as survivors of something they didn't understand yet. Rita helped a young woman out of her pod while she looked around in panic. Easy, you're on a rescue ship. You've been in cryosleep longer than planned, but you made it. How long? She asked. Rita glanced at Connor, who nodded. Someone had to tell them. 62 years. The silence that followed was profound. 31 people processing the death of everything they'd known. Families aged or gone. A world that had moved on. Plans and dreams that had expired while they slept. Then Daniel Mercer spoke, his voice stronger now. The others, the rest of the Olivia Dawn, Doc held his hand. Just you, just the 31. I'm sorry. Daniel looked at the faces around him, fellow survivors who'd lost the same lottery. Did anyone come for them, the ones who died? No, Connor said from the bridge, his voice carrying through ship speakers. The distress signal was marked as too old to investigate. You were forgotten. But then someone sent us coordinates, and we decided that wasn't acceptable. Who are you? People who think you matter. That's all. The Galactic Council convened an emergency session. Councillor Arin stood before the assembly and spoke about the rescue, about humans who'd risked everything for people they'd never met, about civilian ships that had formed a shield around strangers. He proposed new protocols for responding to distress signals, no matter how old. The proposal passed unanimously. They called it the Olivia Dawn Resolution. The Krell Dominion filed an official protest, then quietly dropped it when public opinion made clear which side the galaxy was on. Battle Commander Thrain released a statement about respecting humanitarian operations, and everyone pretended that had been the plan all along. Kyra and her people announced the formation of the Echo Fleet, a volunteer organization dedicated to investigating old distress calls and forgotten signals. Within a week, they had 400 ships signed up from across dozens of species. Sentinel analyzed its new existence and decided to join the Echo Fleet. It possessed databases of lost ships and abandoned stations spanning thousands of years. It would help find others who'd been forgotten. 8 months later, Daniel Mercer stood in a rehabilitation center designed for people adjusting to major time displacement. His father visited every day, helping him understand a galaxy that had changed while he slept. He'd learned about his family's deaths, about becoming a ghost in his own family's history. But he'd also learned about the rescue, about humans who'd cared enough to break the law, about other species who'd helped, about an AI that had redefined its own purpose to save lives. I want to help, he told Connor when he came to visit. Other people in cryosleep waiting for rescue. I understand what they'll feel when they wake up. Let me be there for them. The Echo Fleet could use someone with your experience, Connor said. Connor and Rita went back to salvaging, but they kept their comm channels open to the Echo Fleet. Once a month, sometimes more, they'd get a message about another old signal. Sometimes they went themselves. Sometimes they just provided coordinates to others who'd taken up the cause. Doc Mercer trained a new generation of medical specialists in long-term cryorevival. He wrote papers. He taught classes. And he spent his evenings with his son, building new memories to replace the ones they'd lost. The Phoenix Rising received another archived distress signal on a quiet morning. This one was from a Vexin colony, lost 79 years ago. Kyra's voice came through the comm almost immediately. The Echo fleet is ready when you are. Connor looked at Rita, who was already plotting coordinates. You know this is going to be complicated, she said. It's always complicated. We could get in trouble again. Probably. The ship needs repairs we can't afford. Doesn't it always? Rita smiled and activated the navigation systems. 79 years is a long time to wait for someone to care. Then let's make sure they know someone does. The Phoenix Rising launched toward another forgotten signal. Behind them, 40 ships from the Echo fleet followed. Ahead of them, somewhere in the dark, people were waiting. Maybe alive, maybe not. But either way, someone would remember them. Sentinel processed this new mission and updated its core function. No longer just preservation through stasis. Now preservation through action, through remembering, through the simple, powerful act of refusing to let people be forgotten. New purpose accepted, it announced to the crew. Designation, hope, mission parameters. Ensure no distress call goes unanswered. Connor smiled and guided his ship into hyperspace. The galaxy was full of forgotten signals, lost ships, abandoned stations. But now there were people willing to remember, people willing to risk everything, because some things mattered more than safety or profit or following orders. Things like knowing that if you were lost in the dark, someone would come looking. Things like refusing to let people become just another archived file. Things like remembering that behind every signal was someone who'd hoped to be found. The Phoenix Rising disappeared into hyperspace, carrying that hope forward into the dark. And across the galaxy, other crews heard the call. Other volunteers joined the cause. Other species decided that maybe humans had the right idea after all. Maybe some things were worth remembering. Maybe some people were worth saving, no matter how long they'd waited, no matter how forgotten they'd become. Because that's what humans did. They remembered. They cared. They refused to let the universe forget. And now, thanks to one stubborn salvage crew and an ancient AI that learned what hope meant, the rest of the galaxy was starting to do the same. The signal that refused to die had finally been answered, and in doing so, it had sparked something that would never die. The knowledge that no one was truly forgotten as long as someone, somewhere, still cared enough to listen.